prepare for the Minnesota Low Voltage License exam, several resources are available. Pearson VUE, the exam administrator, offers an official study guide and practice tests. Electrician U provides online courses and study materials specifically tailored for the Minnesota Low Voltage License exam. Electrician School offers comprehensive study guides and practice simulations covering the exam topics. Contractor School Online provides a self-paced online course with practice questions and mock exams. In terms of books and print materials, the latest edition of the National Electrical Code, or NEC, is essential for understanding electrical principles and regulations. The MIN-CAP Manual for Low Voltage Electrical Contractors, published by the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry, provides guidance on code requirements and industry best practices. The Electrical Installation Handbook is a comprehensive reference guide covering various electrical topics, including low voltage systems. To collaborate with others, you can look at Electrical Forums, which is an online community where electricians can ask questions, share knowledge, and discuss exam preparation. The Minnesota Electrical Association, or MEET, provides resources and networking opportunities for electrical professionals in the state. Many community colleges offer study groups or courses tailored to the Minnesota Low Voltage License exam. When preparing, firstly, familiarize yourself with the exam blueprint to determine the specific topics covered in the exam to focus your studies accordingly. Secondly, practice mock exams to identify areas where you need improvement. Thirdly, seek guidance from experienced professionals to consult with experienced electricians or instructors to clarify concepts and gain practical insights. Fourthly, if available, attend workshops or seminars that cover the exam topics in depth. It's important to stay updated on the latest code requirements. The NEC is updated regularly, so ensure you have access to the most recent version. Regarding the National Electrical Code, it's structured into chapters, articles, parts, and sections. Chapter 1 covers general requirements, Chapter 2 focuses on wiring and protection, Chapter 3 deals with wiring methods and materials, Chapter 4 addresses equipment for general use, Chapter 5 covers special occupancies, Chapter 6 pertains to special equipment, Chapter 7 focuses on special conditions, and Chapter 8 covers communication systems. Understanding how the NEC is organized is crucial for quickly finding the information you need. Articles within each chapter provide more specific requirements. For example, Article 210 covers branch circuits, Article 220 deals with calculations, and Article 250 focuses on grounding and bonding. These articles are further divided into parts, such as Part 1 for general requirements, Part 2 for circuit requirements, and so on. Finally, sections provide the most detailed regulations, such as Section 210.8 regarding ground fault circuit interrupter protection for personnel. When studying the NEC, pay close attention to definitions, as they clarify the meaning of terms used throughout the code. Understanding these definitions is essential for correctly interpreting the requirements. Also, familiarize yourself with the tables in the NEC, such as those for conductor ampacity, conduit fill, and box fill. These tables provide critical information for selecting the correct materials and ensuring safe installations. Conductor ampacity, for instance, is covered in Article 310. Ampacity refers to the maximum current, in amps, that a conductor can carry continuously under specific conditions of use without exceeding its temperature rating. The ampacity of a conductor depends on factors such as its size, insulation type, and the ambient temperature. Table 310.15b16 in the NEC provides ampacity ratings for various conductor types based on these factors. It's important to note that these ampacity ratings are based on specific conditions, such as conductors installed in free air or in raceways. If the conditions of use differ from those specified in the table, correction factors may need to be applied. For example, if the ambient temperature is higher than 30 degrees Celsius, a temperature correction factor must be applied to reduce the conductor's ampacity. Similarly, if multiple conductors are installed in a raceway, a dirting factor must be applied to account for the increased heat generated by the conductors. Conduit fill refers to the percentage of the available space inside a conduit that is occupied by conductors. The NEC limits the amount of fill allowed in a conduit to prevent overheating and ensure that conductors can be easily pulled into and out of the conduit. Table 1 of Chapter 9 in the NEC provides the maximum allowable conduit fill percentages for various types of conduits. For example, the maximum fill for a conduit containing 3 or more conductors is typically 40%. Box fill refers to the amount of space required for conductors, devices, and fittings inside an electrical box. The NEC limits the amount of fill allowed in a box to prevent overcrowding and ensure that connections can be made safely. Article 314 in the NEC provides requirements for box fill calculations. The amount of space required for conductors depends on their size, while the amount of space required for devices and fittings is specified in the NEC. In addition to opacity, conduit fill, and box fill, the NEC also covers other important topics such as grounding and bonding. Grounding is the process of connecting electrical equipment to the earth to provide a path for fault current to flow back to the source. Bonding is the process of connecting metallic parts of an electrical system together to create a low impedance path for fault current. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for preventing electrical shock and fire hazards. Article 250 in the NEC provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding. It covers topics such as the grounding electrode system, equipment grounding conductors, and bonding jumpers. The grounding electrode system consists of 1 or more electrodes that are used to connect the electrical system to the earth. Common grounding electrodes include ground rods, metal water pipes, and concrete encased electrodes. Equipment grounding conductors are used to connect the non-current carrying metal parts of electrical equipment to the grounding electrode system. Bonding jumpers are used to connect metallic parts of an electrical system together, such as metal conduits, enclosures, and equipment frames. Another important topic covered in the NEC is overcurrent protection. Overcurrent protection devices such as circuit breakers and fuses are used to protect electrical circuits from overloads and short circuits. When an overcurrent occurs, the overcurrent protection device will trip or blow, interrupting the flow of current and preventing damage to the electrical system. Article 240 in the NEC provides requirements for overcurrent protection. It covers topics such as the selection and installation of overcurrent protection devices, as well as the coordination of overcurrent protection devices in a system. The selection of overcurrent protection devices depends on the ampacity of the circuit being protected, as well as the type of equipment connected to the circuit. The NEC provides tables and guidelines for selecting the appropriate overcurrent protection device for various applications. Coordination of overcurrent protection devices is important to ensure that the overcurrent protection device closest to the fault will trip first, minimizing the extent of the outage. The NEC also covers wiring methods and materials. Wiring methods refer to the way in which conductors are installed, such as in raceways, cables, or open wiring. Wiring materials refer to the types of conductors, insulation, and other materials used in electrical installations. Chapter 3 in the NEC provides requirements for wiring methods and materials. It covers topics such as the types of raceways allowed in different locations, the types of cables allowed for different applications, and the requirements for conductor insulation. The selection of wiring methods and materials depends on factors such as the environment, the voltage, and the type of occupancy. The NEC also includes requirements for special occupancies such as hazardous locations, healthcare facilities, and places of assembly. Special occupancies have unique electrical requirements due to the increased risk of fire, explosion, or electrical shock. Chapter 5 in the NEC provides requirements for special occupancies. It covers topics such as the types of wiring methods allowed in hazardous locations, the requirements for emergency power systems in healthcare facilities, and the requirements for fire alarm systems in places of assembly. The NEC is a complex and comprehensive document, and it's essential to have a thorough understanding of its requirements to ensure safe and compliant electrical installations. By utilizing the resources mentioned earlier, such as study guides, online courses, and practice exams, you can effectively prepare for the Minnesota Low Voltage License exam and demonstrate your knowledge of the NEC and other relevant electrical codes and standards. It is also recommended to review the specific requirements outlined by the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry for low voltage electrical work, as these requirements may go beyond the general guidelines provided in the NEC. Furthermore, practical experience is invaluable in preparing for the exam. If possible, seek opportunities to work alongside experienced electricians and gain hands-on knowledge of low-voltage electrical systems. This will not only reinforce your understanding of the code but also provide you with valuable insights into real-world applications. Remember that the Minnesota Low Voltage License exam is designed to assess your competency in electrical safety and code compliance. By dedicating sufficient time and effort to studying and preparing, you can increase your chances of passing the exam and obtaining your license. Regarding specific topics often covered in low-voltage exams, you should be familiar with control circuits. Control circuits are used to control the operation of electrical equipment, such as motors, lighting systems, and HVAC systems. These circuits typically operate at low voltages, such as 24 volts or 120 volts, and use components such as relays, switches, and sensors to control the flow of current. Understanding the principles of control circuits is essential for troubleshooting and maintaining electrical equipment. Another important topic is fire alarm systems. Fire alarm systems are designed to detect fires and alert occupants of a building. These systems typically include smoke detectors, heat detectors, pull stations, and alarm bells. The NEC and other codes provide specific requirements for the installation, testing, and maintenance of fire alarm systems. You should be familiar with these requirements to ensure the safety of building occupants. Furthermore, you should also know about communication systems. Communication systems are used to transmit data, voice, and video signals. These systems include telephone systems, data networks, and cable television systems. Low voltage wiring is commonly used in communication systems, and you should be familiar with the requirements for installing and maintaining these systems. Lastly, be familiar with security systems. Security systems are designed to protect buildings and their occupants from unauthorized access. These systems typically include door and window sensors, motion detectors, and alarm systems. Low voltage wiring is commonly used in security systems, and you should be familiar with the requirements for installing and maintaining these systems. When studying for the exam, focus on understanding the underlying principles of electrical systems and the reasons behind the code requirements. Don't just memorize the code, strive to understand why the code is written the way it is. This will help you apply the code correctly in different situations and make informed decisions when troubleshooting electrical problems. Also, practice applying the code to real-world scenarios. Work through examples and case studies to see how the code applies in different situations. This will help you develop your problem-solving skills and prepare you for the types of questions you will encounter on the exam. Attend any available training sessions or workshops on low-voltage electrical systems and NEC. These sessions can provide valuable insights and practical tips for passing the exam. Finally, stay calm and confident during the exam. Read each question carefully and make sure you understand what is being asked before you answer. If you are unsure of an answer, eliminate any obviously wrong choices and then make your best guess from the remaining options.